Chapter 3, Bull Connor's Birmingham. If you had visited Birmingham before the 3rd of April in the 100th anniversary year of the Negro's emancipation, you might have come to a startling conclusion. You might have concluded that there was a city which had been trapped for decades in a Rip Van Winkle slumber. A city whose fathers had apparently never heard of Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, the Bill of Rights, the preamble to the Constitution, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, or the 1954 decision of the United States Supreme Court outlawing segregation in the public schools. If your powers of imagination were great enough to enable you to place yourself in the position of a Negro baby born and brought up to physical maturity in Birmingham, you would have pictured your life in the following manner. You would be born in a Jim Crow hospital to parents who probably lived in a ghetto. You would attend a Jim Crow school. It is not really true that the city fathers had never heard of the Supreme Court's school desegregation order. They had heard of it since its passage, yet had consistently expressed their defiance, typified by prediction of one official that blood would run in the streets before desegregation would be permitted to come to Birmingham. You would spend your childhood playing mainly in the streets because the quote-unquote colored parks were abysmally inadequate. When a federal court banned park desegregation, you would find that Birmingham closed its parks and gave up its baseball team rather than integrate them. If you went shopping with your mother or father, you would trudge along as they purchased at every counter except one, in the large or small stores. If you were hungry or thirsty, you would have to forget about it until you got back to the Negro section of town, for in your city it was a violation of the law to serve food to Negroes at the same counter as whites. If your family attended church, you would go to a Negro church. If you wanted to visit a church attended by white people, you would not be welcome. For although your white fellow citizens would insist that they were Christians, they practiced segregation as rigidly in the house of God as they did in the theater. If you loved music and yearned to hear the Metropolitan Opera on its tour of the South, you could not enjoy this privilege, nor could your white fellow music lovers. For the Metropolitan has discontinued scheduling Birmingham on its national tours after it had adopted a policy of not performing before segregated audiences. If you wanted to contribute to and be a part of the work of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, you would not be able to join a local branch. In the state of Alabama, segregationist authorities have been successful in enjoining the NAACP from performing its civil rights work by declaring it a foreign cooperation and rendering its activities illegal. If you wanted a job in this city, one of the greatest iron and steel producing centers in the nation, you had better settle on doing menial work as a porter or laborer. If you were fortunate enough to get a job, you could expect that promotions to a better status or more pay would come not to you, but to a white employee regardless of your competitive skills or talents. On your job, you would eat in a separate place and use water fountain and laboratory labeled colored in conformity to citywide ordinances. If you believed your history books and thought of America as a country whose governing officials, whether city, state, or nation, are selected by the governed, you would be swiftly disillusioned when you tried to exercise your right to register and vote. You would be confronted with every conceivable obstacle to taking that most important walk a Negro American can take today, the walk to the ballot box. Of the 80,000 voters in Birmingham prior to January 1963, only 10,000 were Negro. Your race, constituting 2/5 of the city's population, would make up 1/8 of its voting strength. You would be living in a city where brutality directed against Negroes was an unquestioned and unchallenged reality. One of the city's commissioners, a member of the member of the body that ruled municipal affairs would be Eugene Bull Connor, a racist who prided himself on knowing how to handle the Negro and keep to his quote-unquote place. As Commissioner of Public Safety, Bill Connor, entrenched for many years in a key position in the Birmingham power structure, displayed as much contempt for the rights of the Negro as he did defiance for the authority of the federal government. Today in America, we see segregationists and we see separatists. Where is there space for unity? Please read.